The divine feminine is not just a concept, it's a force, a presence, and a power that lives within us all. On this episode of The Soul Mirror, we welcome Shannon Curtis, founder of Angel Goddess Healing and author of No More Monsters Under the Bed. Shannon's work is about guiding people so that they can awaken their light and reclaim the sacred power of the feminine within. So, welcome, Shannon. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everyone who's tuning in to listen.
And, Shannon, when you talk about healing the divine feminine, what does that really mean in practical everyday life?
I think when I think of the divine feminine, I think of the nurturing side. I'm thinking of the feeling side. And I think that as a culture and society, we've kind of stepped away from the idea of feeling and feeling our emotions. So when I think of that, when I work with my clients, male or female, whatever it is, of working on the feminine, it's the feeling, it's going within, it's moving from the head to the heart and truly connecting to the heart space and understanding where that's where all the love comes from. And that divine feminine is just that motherly love that sometimes we're missing in life and we don't get it as children. So we learn to rise that up and find that love for ourselves within ourselves.
Yes, that is so beautiful. And thank you for sharing this. And do you think society has conditioned people to silence or suppress that part of themselves?
Absolutely. I think we've kind of gotten out of touch with the divine feminine and we've kind of swung to the divine masculine and that power. And sometimes with the power comes the greed or just different things, wars, all these things that come stem from that sometimes. And so I feel like as we bring up the divine feminine and start letting that kind of seek out, it starts to create that balance of we need that loving and we need that nurturing and we need how we raise our children and how we look at ourselves. But it does start with the women. And I truly believe it starts with ourself of finding that unconditional love for ourselves and then throughout others and other women in our life and trying to help raise everyone together instead of being pinned against each other. And I think a lot of times in society, without even knowing it in social media, we all of a sudden start comparing each other. And so when we start comparing, then that becomes maybe the jealousy or the lack of and not feeling as good. And so I think if we shift it and when we see something in a woman that we admire, to use it as like something, a driving force to become more like that than something I'm lacking and jealous. And that becomes like that greed, like I need to take something, I need to push them down. So I truly feel like when we're aligned with ourselves and our divine feminine, then we can see somebody else from that unconditional love.
Yes, I think that opens the door for listeners to reflect on how much of their power they have unknowingly deemed. And
Hmm.
also, your journey led to creating Angel Goddess Healing. What inspired you to make it a sanctuary?
What inspired me was just the knowing of my own journey and wanting to share it with others and my healing journey of my remembrance. And I had sexual trauma when I was younger, and I didn't fully remember it and walk through that painful memory till I was in my 40s. My journey was with the use of sacred plant medicine that helped me unlock those memories. But with that came this beautiful journey and understanding that it was done for me and it was part of my soul, was so I could experience that, but then I can go out and help others how to learn how to heal themselves. And it's all within. So I always say, I'm not healing people, I'm helping them learn that they have the power to heal themselves. And so Angel Goddess Healing was born from that, a place, a safe space for people to come in and to heal and meet them wherever they're at. And I feel like that safety, that sanctuary where you have somewhere you can go and know you can be unapologetically yourself and you can really just let those walls down. So then we can really go inside and see maybe some blocks that you're having in your life. But I think it starts with you feeling safe and having that safe place and someone that you trust. And so that's why I love coaching. I did the therapy stuff, but what I love about coaching is I'm able to share my story with my clients so then I can connect more on a human level of it's not just me telling them things to do. These are things that I've done myself and that I've seen how it's helped me and changed and transformed my life. And so that's my like mission in life, is just to help as many people, but I do have a very special place for women and helping them unlock that divine feminine.
Yes, that's so beautiful. And did your own healing shape the way you now guide others?
Absolutely. I always tell my clients, I never ask you to do anything I haven't done. And so the big thing that I help people with is sitting in the pain, sitting in those uncomfortable feelings. So we talked about the feeling and that feminine, and that's feeling. That's the only way I feel like you can truly move through trauma is by sitting in it, letting you feel it, but also releasing it. And what happens is sometimes we get scared to feel it because we don't think we're gonna be able to move through it, and it's scary. So we shut down and we don't want to go to those dark places. And so I just help people. I say I'm like a flashlight, and we go in this house that's all dark, and we're gonna go look in the rooms, and we're gonna go see that I'm there right next to you. So you just have a person to hold your hand and to be a witness of. But that's where that kind of feels is to just help people really understand that your journey is beautiful in all the things, the good and the bad things with it. And so I've seen that in my life, how when I really accepted everything, everything down to my traumas, and I saw they were done for me, not to me, it changed my life. And it really helped like project me on this spiritual journey, just seeing everything from a lens of love and not from fear. And that's where I really, really try to practice of love and fear and which one am I going to choose. And love is in the trusting that everything is done in divine order and spiritually, God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. There's something outside of yourself that we don't understand all the time. But on that journey, if you're willing to go within, you will find those answers within that you might be looking for.
Yes. And I think that makes the work as something born from lived experience and not just only theories.
Mm-hmm.
And addictions and trauma often make people feel powerless. How does
Mm-hmm.
reconnecting with the divine feminine change that dynamic?
So I struggled with addiction. And so if you look at it just as 7, 8 years of my life was addiction, you could say, okay, I was an addict or I was addicted to pain medicine. But when you really peel it back and start to hear my story and start to understand it, it goes all the way back to my 4 year old self that was sexually abused. And so I held on to that pain. And so then I started having all these period problems and female stuff and had to have a hysterectomy and endometriosis and struggled with miscarriages. So my miscarriages are what propelled my addiction. So then when I had my daughter finally after, just going through all this pain, I then found this thing, this substance that helped numb that pain that I wasn't ready to sit in. So there came my addiction. It wasn't because I just wanted to be, I was trying to numb something that I wasn't ready to look at because I didn't have the tools. And so now once I have the tools and the understanding of it all, I can see that my addiction was something beautiful. It's not something to be shameful about because I didn't know then. And now I have the tools. And so I really, really, anyone who's listening and struggling, we all have something that we check out with, whether it's sex, money, alcohol, drugs, shopping, anything. It's something outside of ourselves, but it's stopping to be curious and not shame it. Just be like, why am I doing this? What am I maybe checking out from? And when you're really ready to start checking in, you can start seeing that. But through the love and compassion that you start to have for yourself and the unconditional love, that's where the shame gets released from these addictions or from these things that happen to us that we walk around having shame. And so I just help people like realize to release it and to not have that because that's holding you back in that. That was who I was, but it also brought me to who I am now. And again, there's a reason why I went through it so I can work with people that are struggling. And so I just really learned to turn my pain into purpose. And then I really just want to help other people learn the same for themselves that everything they went through, there can be a beautiful journey in it if they're willing to look at it and process it. And then they can go out and share that love that they found with others.
Yeah. And I think that uh, those stories reminds us that even in the darkest chapter, rebirth is always possible. And
Yes, that's such a beautiful statement.
like, could you share a moment where you saw someone truly stepped into the light after years of struggle?
Yes, absolutely. I see that in clients that come through my doors. I work with clients that are just want to come and do their life stuff. And then I work with clients that are getting ready to maybe go sit in plant medicine. And what we do is just really, really peel the layers back. And what I've seen is when people understand what they're running from, then they can face it. But so many times, time after time, they just don't know what it is. And that's where coaching or therapy, whatever it is, someone outside of yourself to help you look at that in a non-judgmental way. And so I've seen women come in here and just face on their sexual trauma and literally sit in it and release it, and they come out. Now sometimes they have like forgetting, and so I continue working with them, and I always say it's just forgetting who you truly were, what you felt here, why you were here with me. And so it's just that reminder. But once they remember who they are and that power, they just go and their lives are transformed and they just change everything about them, because maybe their life's not changing, but the way they view life is changing. And I feel like that's way more powerful, because then no matter what happens around you, you always have that control of creating your environment within you, finding your peace and not looking for it outside of it. So I've just seen time and time again people who come in here and are willing to look at that and leave a different person. But it's just the knowing that they have the power, and that is something that you just can't replicate outside of just going within yourself and knowing at the end of the day, the love that you're seeking outside of you is within you.
The children's story about facing the dark with courage and light. What do you hope both children and adults take away from it?
Yeah, so I love this book was born from me. It was born from spirit. It just came through me, but it was trying to heal my own sexual trauma. And it's about a little girl who's scared of the dark because someone came in a room and took the dark. And so with the help like of a guardian angel, they're able to walk through that and go on a beautiful journey of remembrance and gaining all the pieces of herself, her soul that she left. And so what I love about it is it's a book for children and for the adults reading it, because it's all about the inner child. And so anyone can read it and go back to that place of having something that they're scared of, whether it was as a child or as an adult, these fears we have, that monster we have under the bed. And what happens when you look at it, and what I had was I realized that quote unquote monster was my greatest teacher. He was my greatest teacher of unconditionally loving, that even though he did this to me, my perpetrator, I was able to reclaim my power and tell him thank you. And then I understood true forgiveness. And that's what I hope people reading the book can realize, that it's all about forgiveness. But first, it starts with yourself, of forgiving that I'm not that shame that I felt from being abused, but he's also not that either, meaning I'm setting him free and not giving him any power. And so within that starts to reclaim your light and say that no one's going to ever take it away. And so I'm just healing the inner child. And so many times we act at our wounded child. And even though we're adults and we're in this big world and have bills and all these things, sometimes we still go back to those little things of those traumas, those false stories we tell ourselves. And so this is just another beautiful way of looking at it, of facing that monster and seeing that they were your greatest teacher, of knowing you had your own power.
Yes. Heal, do you think storytelling can heal any part of us that other methods cannot reach?
Yes, I think it's such a beautiful way, because what I found is it's a fun way to do it. Meaning, sometimes when I thought I always knew I was going to be a writer, but I didn't know what, and I definitely didn't think it was going to be like a quote unquote children's story. But what I found is it's a beautiful way to tell it, that it's not so heavy. And sometimes you get a lot of these books and doing as adults, but I truly think we need to see it from the eyes of a child, and remembering we're all innocent in the eyes of when we're children. And so seeing it from that way, you can look at a story in a different way. And so maybe as an adult, I'm looking as the abuse and as the anger and the frustration. But when I go back to that child and how she felt, I can see it from a different set of eyes. And so it's allowing me to tell my story, but in a healed way. And so I'm honoring that inner child of me that was hurt, but I'm also showing her a way to walk through that. And by doing that, I'm also doing it for myself.
Yes, I think that sparks a deeper conversation about the role of imagination and myth in transformation.
Yes, and I have beautiful pages.
Yes,
So I had I'm sorry.
yes. Yes, go ahead.
I was just saying, when you said that, the other reason why the children's book it came out so beautiful is my illustrator, and he hand drew everything, and it's like a one of a kind. And the stories just come to life of how he drew this, and I felt that was very, very important when you're dealing with heavy topics like this to have this other. Like you just said, this magical your imagination, and you can transform into a different place. And so I think that was a really big balance of having this heavy conversation, but also these beautiful illustrations help you not get lost in the story, but also visually you can have another layer of it, and it helps you take it outside to a different space of healing. They can begin by, I think, just looking outside. And first, I think it starts with admitting that, saying it out loud, right? Saying that there's something more that I'm struggling with, but I'm willing to look at that. And whether it's me, somebody out there, I always say there's so many different ways, there's so many different tools that you can choose. You can choose the plant medicine, you can choose the therapy, you can choose the writing, the storytelling. There's so many different ways. Equine therapy, play therapy. It's finding what works for you is what I always tell everyone. It's kind of like going from A to Z. You know the ending, but you can choose how you get there. And so finding that, and it's sometimes going to therapy maybe doesn't feel right. I did therapy and it took me to a certain place and I needed something deeper, but it served a purpose. And so I would just say starting with yourself and willing to look within, but then reach outside of yourself. And then it starts with saying it to another human being. I need help, but there's something I want to look at. I can't see this. This is a blind spot in my life. I can't figure it out. And so it's starting with the vulnerability and the unconditional love of yourself of saying, I need help. And so that's, I think, the biggest thing. And then being open to however it comes, because it's something might resonate with you that it doesn't with somebody else. And I always say, whoever hears my story and resonates, that's beautiful. But if someone doesn't, that's okay too. Find that story that resonates with you. It's just like religions, whatever works for you that brings your inner peace. That's all it's about. It's not about judging my ways better than yours. This is just my journey. And so, anyone who's listening, I would just say find your journey to your inner peace, and whatever that looks like, that's okay.
Yes, I think that encouragement makes healing approachable and remind us that power is reclaimed piece by piece. Why is taking one small step of remembrance more powerful than waiting for the perfect moment to change?
I think it's because every moment's perfect. You know, looking at that, every moment is in its perfection. So, not getting caught up in our head. And I think that's where our head, and we're on this timeline and we have, days and months and years. When you take all that away and in the moment, it's living in the present moment, and every present moment is being beautifully, divinely orchestrated. And so it doesn't matter. Don't get so stuck on it. And so, what I do is sometimes I'm not ready yet to face something. Every day I just say, give me the strength to face it. Give me the strength. And so maybe it's not today, maybe it's something you're putting off. And so just acknowledging it, but not putting pressure on yourself that you have to do it right now. Trusting you'll do it when the moment's perfect. And I think if we start to slow down, and so many times we try to fit so much stuff in our day and have to get stuff done. And in the end of the day, if we don't get it all done, then we start feeling shame and bad and we're, lazy. What I've learned is everything that I did that day was supposed to happen. The things that I didn't do, I wasn't supposed to do. But if I'm putting off something because I'm just avoiding it, all I do is then turn and ask myself, like, just to give myself the strength. And then I trust and let it go that I'll have the strength at the perfect time I'm supposed to.
Yes, that is so, so wonderful. And thank you for joining and sharing so much of your knowledge, your experiences, your stories with us. And if after this my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
Yes, so I have my website. It's www.angelgoddesshealing.com. And that's where they can go on and see my coaching services that I do and my speaking and then my book. And I have some podcasts that I've been on. But yeah, so they can go there and find everything. And then they have the links to my social media. But I would say the best place is my website, is where everything kind of my home base is.
Yes, and I will make sure to attach all these details and links below so that the listener can find them easily and get in touch with you. And thank you again for joining us and sharing so much. It's really an honor for us. And to all my listeners, Shannon's wisdom shows us that the divine feminine isn't lost, it's waiting patiently for us to remember. Healing begins when we choose to face the dark, honor our softness, and reclaim our light. So let this conversation be your invitation. Step into your power because the world needs the fullness of who you are. Thank you.